Should the federal government pay for syringe service or needle exchange programs? I got this comment on a video that asked a totally different question, which was, does syringe service encourage people to keep using drugs? And I wanted to ask and answer that question in the video because it makes total sense to me that people might assume that syringe service or needle exchange encourages people to use drugs. But as a public health researcher and as a person working on these issues out in community, I can tell you that the evidence is clear. It doesn't encourage drug use. It doesn't encourage crime. And in fact, people who use syringe service programs are far more likely to get into treatment. It's saving lives. And I wanted to make that point in my previous video because the executive order from the White House this week defunding harm reduction work like syringe service programs says, and I quote, "Do not fund programs that fail to achieve adequate outcomes, including so-called harm reduction," which makes it sound like harm reduction doesn't have adequate outcomes. But it has great outcomes. In fact, it has some of the best outcomes, far better than many of the other things that are being funded by this executive order. It goes on to say efforts that only facilitate illegal drug use and its attendant harm. That's just false. The evidence suggests that it does not facilitate continued drug use, rather that people are far more likely to get into treatment and to end their substance use as a result of this. So the question I was answering wasn't about whether or not the federal government should pay for it. It was just that it's effective and it's safe for our communities, and it in fact promotes recovery. Now, the comment asked the question, should the federal government pay for it? Which is a different question we could discuss as a different debate. And the question just comes down to whether or not saving lives is in fact a pet project, whether or not we can afford to save lives.